All right, let's talk about Iran.
We always talked about going there together, remember?
We will still go there. We will still go there.
I think we are.
We will still go there. And
Really?
Adam's going to go with us.
What's the over-under on when you would actually go to Iran?
What's the over-under?
Over-under.
You need an administration like Trump for at least 8 years for me to be able to go to Iran. You know why?
Why is that?
You want to really talk about it from that angle?
Of course.
Okay, let's talk about it before we get into the topic.
Sure.
In order for me to be able to go back to Iran, there needs to be a revolution in Iran.
Okay. So
in order for there to be a revolution,
you're not going unless there's a revolution.
There has to be a revolution because there has to be a different way of living, democracy. Women have to have the freedom that they once had, and tourism needs to be at where it needs to be. And today, with the sanctions, financial, it's not a good situation right now to go to Iran.
Okay.
So, by the way, we're very close to get to that point
of a revolution,
but it's not going to happen because Biden got elected, and I'll explain to you why. So, Iran's top nuclear scientist was assassinated by a remote control machine gun placed in the back of another car, the country's media says. The Iranian Defense Ministry has given few details of the killing, but has pointed the fingers at Israel. New information about the attack was reported Sunday. However, the Fars saying Fakhrizadeh stopped and left his car after mistaking several bullets that had just hit his vehicle for engine trouble. At this point, Fars said Nissan pickup truck stopped 150 meters or about 492 feet from Fakhrizadeh, and a gun mounted on the back of the truck opened fire, hitting him twice in the back and once in the spine. 3 security cars had been traveling with Fakhrizadeh and a bodyguard who launched himself over the scientist's body, who was also shot, Fars reported. According to Fars, after the hit on Fakhrizadeh was complete, the Nissan truck exploded. The entire attack lasted 3 minutes, the news agency reported. So what's really going on over here? What's really going on here?
I'll tell you one thing.
Here's what you have to here's what you have to realize. I kind of give you a little bit of it, and then I'll go into with some of the thoughts you guys may have. Number one, what has happened the last 12 months to Iran? What's happened the last 12 months to Iran? A lot has happened over the last 12 months to Iran. In the last 12 months, Iran lost their number 2 in power, Qasem Soleimani, which, by the way, he was a potential candidate to be the leader of Iran. He died. Okay, it's about a year ago. And we remember how that happened and when it happened.
A drone strike.
And we remember how Iran retaliated. They hit a military base with nobody being at the base just to show that they're people that we retaliated, but nothing took place.
Right.
Then you have, fast forward, quietly on August 7th of this year, I believe, August 7th of this year, they went and took out the number 2 guy of Al-Qaeda is what they did this year. August, if you want to pull up the picture so everybody knows who they took out this year. August 7th of this year, they took out Abu Mohammed al-Masri, Abu Mohammed al-Masri. Now, some of you who don't know who he is, let me kind of give you the background of how powerful of a guy he is. He's the number 2 guy in Al-Qaeda. He was walking in the streets of Iran with his daughter, who's married to Osama bin Laden's son. They killed both of them. They killed him and his daughter. Well, I'm going to get to who killed them. Who, okay, because you're connected to them. Who killed them, right? So he ends up getting killed August 7, 1998. Now, what is special about August 7, 2020? We're talking 4 months ago. What is so special about August 7, 2020? Exactly 22 years ago, August 7th, 1998, what happened in Africa Embassy? There was a bombing at Africa Embassy, and 220 people were killed at the U.S. Embassy, 2 U.S. embassies. Do you know who led that project? This man right here. On the same exact day, 22 years ago, that he did.
Not a coincidence.
Not a coincidence. 22 years later, they kill him and his daughter in the streets of Iran. And guess what Iran says when they kill him? Nothing. You know why they said nothing? You didn't hear about it. They didn't talk about it in the news. They didn't advertise it. They were embarrassed, and they didn't want to even report that we're going to retaliate because he's part of what? Al-Qaeda. They can't come out there and say, hey, we cannot believe you took out the number 2 guy in Al-Qaeda. His daughter's married to who? Osama bin Laden's son. Okay. So you got Qasem Soleimani. Then you have Abu Mohammed over here that gets killed. And then comes who? And then comes Fakhrizadeh, who is the number 1 scientist in Iran. Now, who is Fakhrizadeh? Nuclear scientist in Iran. Who is he? Okay. You have to go back years ago. There was a project called, Kai, if you want to pull up Project Ahmad. Project Ahmad. Ahmad project was one of the first projects they came out with, refers to Iran scientific project, started in 1989, stopped in 2003 by the IAEA. that is suspected by Israel to have nonetheless continued with the aim of developing nuclear weapons. Who led this? Who was the leader of this project? Fakhrizadeh. Okay, then there's the project. Go to the next one. Then go to the next one. The next project was called SPND, the Iranian Defense Ministry known as SPMD, which was also an organization to go out there and build a nuclear plant in Iran by the same scientist, led by who? Fakhrizadeh. Okay, so now go to a talk that Benjamin Netanyahu gave in 2018. I want to say in April. You have that video. I send it to you, Kai, if you can prepare that video right there. This is a talk he gave April of 2018, okay? And he's given the message about what's going on with Iran. Now watch what he says about Fakhrizadeh. Just press play. Turn on the audio. Yeah, you'll see what he says here when he says, remember the name, key word. 2.5 years ago, Netanyahu says, remember the name. Go ahead and press play.
The new directive of Iran's Ministry of Defense, the work would be split
Watch this.
into two parts, covert and overt. A key part of the plan was to form new organizations to continue the work. This is how Dr. Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, head of Project Ahmad, put it. Remember that name.
Remember that name.
So here's his directive. It's right here. And he says, the general aim is to announce the closure of Project Ahmad, but then he adds, special activities, you know what that is, special activities will be carried out under the title of scientific know-how developments. And in fact, this is exactly what Iran proceeded to do. It continued this work in a series of organizations over the years. And today, in 2010, 2018, this work is carried out by Sapand. That's an organization inside Iran's defense ministry. And you will not be surprised to hear that Sapand is led by the same person who led Project Ahmad, Dr. Fakhrizadeh, and also, not coincidentally, many of Sapand's key personnel worked under Fakhrizadeh on Project Ahmad.
Pause it.
So this atomic...
Pause it right there. Okay, so watch this here. So you got Qasem Soleimani, you got Abu Mohammed, who was the number 2 guy at Al-Qaeda, you got Qasem Soleimani, who was the number 2 guy in Iran, and you got Fakhrizadeh, who was the number 1 nuclear scientist in Iran, okay? Who was leading America during that time? Who was the president? Trump. Who was the prime minister of Israel?
Bibi Netanyahu.
Netanyahu,
Yeah.
Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay, so where does this go to next? Where does this go to next? Well, if you watch this, go to the tweet of John Brennan. Go to the tweet of John Brennan. Look what he says. Here's what Brennan says. And for folks who don't know who John Brennan is not a Trump guy. John Brennan is a Obama and a Biden guy. He said on November 27th.
He's a national security analyst.
For
I mean,
Obama, yeah.
I'm just saying, like he's...
But he's also on, he's not a Trump camp. He's
clearly
a Biden
not a Trump
and an
guy.
Obama
He's actually
camp.
a Trump hater, but he's a high up in the...
he is. On the Biden
defense.
and
Correct.
Obama side. November 27th, he tweets. Associated Press comes out saying an Iranian scientist that Israel alleged that the Islamic Republic military nuclear program before it was disbanded has been killed in a shootout, Iran state television said. He says, this was a criminal act and highly reckless. It risks lethal retaliation and a new round of regional conflict. Iranian leaders would be wise to wait for the return of responsible American leadership. Who's he talking about? On the global stage, and to resist the urge to respond against perceived culprits. Let me read that one more time. This is what you call sign language, okay? This is a message saying, Khamenei, we understand you're upset right now. Please read my tweet. I can't contact you right now because it's going to come out. I'm telling you, read my tweet. Iranian leaders would be wise to wait for the return of responsible American leadership on the global stage. Hence, Biden to replace Trump and to resist the urge to respond against perceived culprits. So wait for what? Does this mean Biden's going to give them that $150 billion deal that they had before? Does this mean Biden's going to give you that money that you had and he's going to remove the sanctions? Just be patient. We know you lost your number 1 nuclear scientist. We're sorry. Be patient. And does this mean that John Brennan is not supportive of Benjamin Netanyahu, that this is a criminal act and highly reckless? Because in the streets of politics between Iran and Israel, people knew who was behind this. And they're comfortable saying it, that who was behind this. And that is Netanyahu. That is an open conversation that people are having. No one's surprised by this. Right. So what does this mean? What does this mean? Here's how I process this. I foresee nothing taking place over the next few weeks. I foresee Iran getting the money that they want when Biden comes in. I foresee sanctions getting lower and maybe even going away when Biden takes office. I foresee a massive attack from Iran to someone in the Middle East. Here they may go straight at Israel, but they're going to go to any of the allies that's linked to Netanyahu, any of the allies that was towards Trump's camp when Trump was here, not Biden's.
Saudis.
They're not going to slow down. They are going to retaliate, and it's not going to be during this term, the next month or so. But it is going to happen in the next 4 years, and it will not happen at a time when we're expecting it. So I'm very surprised by John Brennan's tweet. Whether you're right or not, or whether you're correct or not, whether you're anything you're saying or not, you officially didn't defend Netanyahu, and Netanyahu is one of the most important allies U.S. has had for a long time, and things are about to get very interesting in the Middle East. So having said that, I'm going to turn it over to you. What are your thoughts?
Just a couple questions.
Yeah.
Clearly understand but John Brennan is not active in government right now. He's sort of just a talking head, whether he's anti-Trump or pro-Obama or pro-Biden. Unless he has a position, he's a has-been, as Trump likes to say, right? So he's not, this is his opinion. I don't think there's no policy. There's nothing that he's implementing. This is just an old guy's opinion. So I don't think there's any question. I'm not sure if it was Israel that attacked, how do you say his name? Fakhrizadeh. I'm not sure if that was them that did it, but I know for a fact it was Israeli technology. Without it, I mean, there was a remote-controlled machine gun that shot up the car, and the guy got out. He thought it was they hit a bump or something. They got out, sprayed him down. The bodyguard tried to jump. He got shot. The car blew up 2 minutes later. Boom. Like, that's Israeli technology for sure. Now, I'm not sure who got into Iran and if it was Mossad, the Israeli, like, CIA who did it, but this is clearly an Israeli technology type of move.
Well, why do you say that? To me, it sounds like the last episode of Breaking Bad.
There you go.
Remember that?
You kind of look like little Walter White.
Remember
vibe
the remote
going on,
control
Tom.
machine gun?
You kind of
Remember
got a
Walter White?
Yeah,
You don't remember that?
I'm looking at him right now.
I'm wondering that.
Yeah, but
So what are you wondering, though? You're wondering is what? You're wondering, was it led by Israel to do something like that? Or you're saying it was done by...
Well, somebody in Israel has got Netflix. And so they're watching
they
this,
got
and it
the
comes to
idea
the
from
end, they
there?
get there and they
Yeah.
go, hey, guys.
Man, that's a brilliant processing there, Tom.
I'm not sure if it's art imitating life or life imitating art or whatever it is, but I think we can all agree that Israeli technology is ridiculous when it comes to this kind of stuff. You have a good point. I think the biggest point here is what's going to happen with that $150 billion, entering the Iran nuclear deal. Trump got out of that as soon as he came into office.
Do you know how big it is to take out a country's number 2 guy?
Soleimani,
Do you know how
say.
big it is to take out the number 2 to Al-Qaeda? And do you know how big it is to take out the number 1 nuclear scientist? I don't think you realize. Like, go to a sports team and take out the number 1 guy. What happens? Go to a sports team and take out the number 2 guy. What happens? Go to a company and take out and see what happens.
Well, go to the Denver Broncos and take out their top 3 quarterbacks and see what happens.
It's not like every single day.
Situation.
It's not like every single day you can find let me go put a job posting on Monster. You're looking for a top nuclear scientist. You know what I mean?
I know, all
We're
the
in
nuclear
Iran just hiring
Exactly.
for a nuclear scientist.
Yeah.
Anybody got experience in
know.
being a nuclear scientist? That doesn't happen every day. They lost someone legit that they needed to do what they wanted to do.
Well, this is what, I mean, it's no secret why they blamed Israel. This is what Israel does. They say, look, we're not going to fight a real war. We're going to be very tactful and tactical, and we're going to take out your top people. I mean, this is why the U.S. and Israel are so tight. This is what they're doing, all day, every day, planning these types of attacks. Why go to war when you can just take out one guy, take out the leader, take out the general, take out the top nuclear scientist? But they're...
By the way, if you're watching, if you're watching this, if you're saying, Pat, there's no way in the world Iran's going to retaliate in the next, 12 months, 24 months. There's no way they're going to retaliate. Put thumbs down. They're not going to retaliate. If you think they're going to retaliate, push thumbs up. If you think they are going to retaliate, push thumbs up in the next 12, 24 months under a Biden administration. I'm actually really curious what you think is going to be taking place. Tom, do you have any other strong opinions on this?
Yeah, I think so. If I was running an arm of the CIA, what I'd be doing right now, honestly, is I'd be modeling the response And how I'd model response, I'd look at all these important dates, anniversary dates, because in the Middle East, when you have these hits and things and retaliations, they're usually done very symbolically. And they pick a symbolic date or symbolic location. And I'd be trying to kind of model this because Iran is going to respond. They are going to respond in some way, somehow. And over there, I don't know. If I was like the number 5 nuclear scientist, they say, hey, now you're the number 2. And I said, yeah, but don't put that in the paper, please. Because as soon as I get a low number, bad things happen. I don't want a low number. No, I'm number 16. I'm an idiot, man. I'm the number 16 nuclear scientist here. Please get that straight. I was, no. You went like to, you were educated in the United States. You're
Makes
smart.
sense. Tom was a number 6 guy at Jamdat when they sold it for $680 million. He got the check, but he was number 6.
But the point I'm getting to is I'm being serious.
I believe you.
Iran is going to respond, and they're gonna get together. It's going to be very symbolic, and it's going to be very, forceful. And unfortunately, you get a lot of civilians, and people are probably going to get hurt. And it's a world in which we live. The Middle East is a tough place. It's got a lot of fuses over there, and a lot of people that get easily triggered. For hundreds of years, it's been this way. And so one thing we have to respect in the United States is how much we don't understand and how much I appreciate your analysis you just took us through, Pat. You walked through all the steps. And I think Americans need to do that and kind of understand. And, we can loop all this back to the virginity test in London, where there's a culture over there that has a certain set of beliefs, but they're also living with another culture. And that's what leads to this. And so, one man's misunderstanding is another man's culture.
Iran is not. You don't publicly humiliate a community like Iran. You know how there's a friend. You know how there's like if I tell a joke at you, how do you take it? Like let's just if we say stuff about Soy Boy, what does it do to you? Nothing.
Yeah.
People don't realize it doesn't bother you. Like it doesn't bother you saying Soy Boy Mafia. You even have fun with it.
Yeah.
To the point where we called a bunch of people the other day. Every time I said Adam, what did everybody say about Adam? They loved the guy, right? They love Adam. It wasn't like it was 5 guys or 10 guys. It was every phone call loved Adam. Soy Boy Mafia, shout out, right?
We're out there.
You ever met anybody that if you say one thing to them, they're so sensitive that they will keep it forever?
Yeah.
And then they will retaliate. You know who I'm talking about.
They're
Just
wound
go
up.
to a person like that
Yeah,
in
of
your
course.
life, that you publicly humiliated them, they're not going to let go of it. They're extremely wired in a different way. They have ego at the highest level.
Yeah.
They're not as strong as they act out to be. They're actually not strong. They're weak. They're not that strong. But they will retaliate. This is that kind of a regime that they will retaliate. It's not going away. They're not
The
going to
regime specifically.
The what?
The regime.
The regime's
Not the
gonna,
culture, not the people, but the regime.
No.
you're
The
saying?
people are. Dude, are you kidding me? Like, I'd love to take you to Tehran, Iran, and we go have a blast together. I'd love to go out there and show you the culture, the history, rich history. All that. It's never about the people. It's about the regime. It's about the philosophies that the regime's running. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Iran.
So the bottom line is the regime is not going to sit there and take this
They are
lightly.
not going to do it. And they're going to do it during a time where the opposing leader of U.S. is not going to retaliate. Someone like Joe Biden. A person like Joe Biden is not going to say, if you don't do this, we're coming after you. No, a person like Joe Biden is going to say the following speech. Well, I just want you to know, under the Trump administration, if you allow the number 2 leader to get killed, Qasem Soleimani, and you think you were doing the right thing, if you allow Abu, Muhammad get killed, and then if you allow the number 1 nuclear scientist to get killed, if you do that, this is not an Iran attacks, guess who Biden's going to blame? Biden's going to say the attacks that Iran just imposed onto ... is a byproduct of the policies brought down by Donald Trump. Remember when I said this. Remember when I said this. Kai, make a note on this in your notes, because you're going to make a note in your phone notes, say podcast 29, Iran nuclear, and put the time right now. It's right about 1 hour when I said this. Right about 1 hour when I said this. That you're going to have to come back and reshoot it, and not reshoot it, cut it. And it happened next 2 to 3 years, that this is what's going to be said. You will hear them say it, and I'm going to show you that I said this. That's what's going to be said, because they're not going to sit around. They're going to retaliate, and Biden's out's going to be what? It's not my fault. It's the prior administration that really pissed them off. That's what's going to happen next 2, 3, 4 years.
And bottom line, you think Iran...
I hope I'm wrong. I hope
so
I
too.
am absolutely wrong.
Is part of this going to be the $150 billion that Iran will potentially receive? Like, do you think that's like
They
a
need
prediction
breathing room.
time?
They need money.
Do you think that they're gonna cut a deal for that?
They're gonna get the money back. They're gonna get the sanctions cut. Iran's gonna go become powerful again in the Middle East. They're not going away.
Because you think they're going to get the money.
They're
Like, that's
going to get the money very quickly. And you know what they're going to say? They're going to use a word, a very magical word. They're going to say peace, truce, something like that, where it's a powerful word. And we're going to say, oh, wow, there's peace in Iran.
Yeah, right.
That's what they're going to use.
But who's buying
and
that?
we're going to, well, 80 million people are going to buy it. 80 million people are going to buy that. 80 million people are going to say, what a peaceful, noble thing to do. About 80 million people are buying it. So if you're asking the question, I'll give you specific data online. It's about 80 million people and one sitting at this table here
But
right now.
you're saying money or not, Iran is not looking for peace. Straight.
No way.
They're
No
looking
way.
for retaliation.
Iran, they don't just dislike Israel. They hate
Well, we know that.
Israel.
I mean, that's not
Yeah.
even a
and
debate.
the difference between Netanyahu, here's the other thing with Netanyahu also. Let me give you Netanyahu's side as well. He's not a guy that's sitting around not ruffling feathers and not talking publicly. That presentation, if you've never seen this, you got to sit there and watch that. It's the most eloquent presentation PowerPoint. Like you look at that and you say, this guy's probably prepared to give this PowerPoint at least 20 times before he gave it. Netanyahu is also not one that's sitting around afraid of Iran. And again, Israel historically has been known for having what? The strongest Air Force. Historically, they've always been known. Israel has the best Air Force. Israel has the best Air Force. Now you're seeing these kinds of creative attacks.
Technology.
Technology is at a different level right now.
Well, when you have the U.S., if U.S. has your back, you can project toughness. Like we talked about this with Armenia and
the question is going to be if they're going to have their back this next time around.
U.S. and
If
Israel?
U.S. is going to have Israel's back,
Of course. When did they not?
U.S. is going to have Israel's back the way they're going to have it like prior 4 years. I don't know about that.
What do you mean 4 years?
I-
For the past 50 years.
I don't know about that.
When has it been any different?
Are you kidding me? You're saying under Obama, Israel was as tough as they were the last 4 years? No
I'm
way in the
saying
world.
that the Israel and U.S. relations
Give me
are very strong.
2 days to go show you exactly words that was said under Obama administration towards Israel to not really protect them as much as it was before. All you need to do is go spend an hour online. You'll realize how Israel was during Obama's administration.
Right.
Let me get this straight. You're saying U.S. had Israel's back and U.S. agreed to give $150 billion to Iran?
But that was part of the nuclear deal. It was
Part of
to
the
stop
nuclear
the
deal.
nuclear testing, right?
So you're giving me money to stop doing nuclear testing? And first of all, how you hold me accountable to that? How
I mean,
you
that's
even
a
know if I'm not
whole
doing
rabbit
it?
hole conversation.
But
we
how
can
do you
go down,
actually
yeah.
do it? Honestly, how do you actually do
I
it?
assume that's what some of the stuff they put in the
so
deal.
I'm
no?
going to give you money to tell you don't create nuclear war. That's brilliant. That's a brilliant. I've never heard of that brilliant strategy before. You don't do it that way. You do it with measures to say, if you do X, Y, Z,
Right.
here's the price. There is no price. You don't tell your kids, son, please, here's some money. Just please stop saying bad words to your mommy. You don't do that. But you say, I'm sorry, what did you say? No problem. That Xbox, I'm taking it straight to my office. No Xbox for 3 weeks. That's how you do it. And then they realize, okay, daddy's serious. You don't do it and say, oh, here's $100. Guys, please, when you play Xbox, don't raise your voice. What the hell? What the hell kind of a negotiation is that? Oh, here's some money. Please don't create a nuclear bomb.
So you
and
don't think they should have ever given Iran
Are you
any
like
money
kidding
whatsoever?
me? Here's a country that goes around saying Matic Bat America, death upon America. You want to give them money? Let me get this straight. I sit here and I curse your mother out, and you end up giving me 10 grand. How the hell does that make any sense?
Well, I mean, obviously the point was to stop their entire nuclear.
So I give
weaponry,
you
right?
10 grand. You give me 10 grand to say, Pat, stop calling my mom out. Would you give me, if I kept saying jokes about your mom, are you going to say, here's $10,000, please stop?
Look, I
That's what U.S. did.
I'm not saying that the Iran nuclear deal
What
was
I'm
good or
trying
bad.
to
I'm saying
tell
they
you
had a
is
deal in place.
You bought
Yes.
niceness. What the hell do you mean you're buying
Basically,
that?
you're saying no matter what amount of money that you gave Iran,
No.
they were not going to honor it. Is
No.
what you're saying?
No.
So Trump's move to pull out of the Iran nuclear
Dude,
deal was a great
their
move.
fabric, the Iranian fabric. Okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say, okay, you want me to give you money? Yes. Perfect. Allow every single social media in your country, all of it, okay? Allow every single one of our media in your country. If you kill one person, public killing that you did, I don't know what the number is that they had. I think their number is some ridiculous number that they have, public assassination that they had last year. The number is like 50 people that they killed. Don't forget the wrestler, what Iran did. I think China's the leader at
Disgusting.
250
Yeah.
something, but don't forget what Iran did.
Yeah.
You do one of those, you lose your money. If we get one-time hearing from the top politicians threat to America that's recorded, you're losing your money. If you don't allow Fox, BBC, CNN, ABC, NBCs, any of those guys in Iran, you're losing your money. If you do one more attack on, you're losing your money. If you in your textbook in school, if we see in your textbook in schools, you're talking about how shitty of a country America is and how much we're the enemy, you're losing your money.
The great Satan.
If you want to keep doing that, you're losing our money. That's how you give money. You don't give money and say, please be nice to us. Please. Let's make this work. Have you ever been able to buy, say the girl you love the most, have you ever been able to buy love?
No.
How much money has been able to buy love? Nothing. Even the guy who died couldn't buy Anna Nicole Smith's love. The billionaire that married Anna Nicole Smith, and so you ain't buying no love. She's just buying the money is what you.
Of course.
You cannot buy love. You cannot buy peace.
Well, she also had an expiration date apparently, so.
She used too much drugs. She couldn't control herself.
Exactly.
But she had lower back problems, which was attractive to him. That's what he liked. You didn't see the scientific side of it. That's called spending. That's called failing in biology, but paying attention to the right areas of life. Okay.
So you bring up another point. You say, you take also a look at North Korea, right? Do you think, there's a variety of positions that are out there, but the South Koreans have been very frustrated by the entire rest, and the Japanese, by the entire rest of the West, to not permanently de-arm North Korea. And you have another lunatic that gets paid off in foreign aid, but he doesn't stop making weapons. And every now and then, he's on an anniversary date, he launches another sub-ballistic missile into the ocean, and everybody looks at this. Gosh, he's crazy. Why hasn't he stopped? Well, you've given a bunch of money, and he keeps doing research, and he keeps doing it, and he promised he wouldn't do it next time.
Yeah, this is not going away, Tom. I mean, people have to realize
I'm saying this is the method that there is a method that believes, there is a political position within the left that believes that appeasement through aid creates peace. It doesn't.
No, zero. No, zero. Look,
what you're talking about has played out in North Korea too.
How many wars do we have the last 4 years? How many wars do we have the last 4 years? By a person
new
like
wars, no.
How many new wars caused by Trump?
No.
What countries did he unite the last 4 years?
A lot of peace deals in the Middle East.
How did a personality like his do that? How many wars during Obama?
How many?
How many wars did you see? How much
wars?
How many times did you see terrorist attacks? How many times did you see ISIS? How many times on the news did you hear about ISIS? Every day we woke up ISIS. Debate topics ISIS. Debate topics ISIS. What ISIS topic did you see in single debate the last 4 years? What happened? Because the enemy needs to at least respect you and fear you. What you're capable of. See, when I sat with Sammy, I talked to Sammy and I asked him a question. Sammy de Gravano. I said, Sammy, there's some people that say John Gotti never killed anybody. He always told people to go kill somebody. He says, don't get it twisted. John is capable. He says, that's all that matters in the world I was a part of. I said, what do you mean capable? He says, he's capable of taking your life, so I wouldn't cross him. That's all you have to realize. And because of that, they didn't. So the point with politics is they have to know if they push the envelope, you're willing to go to extreme measures. You don't buy peace, and that's exactly what they try to do.